Well, hello. We are continuing with some of the other things that are going on in this picture, and this is based on a challenge that Simple Art for Adults has put out for August 2018. And something that, and the challenge, sorry, let me just review over what the challenge is. The challenge was to use the colors of the rainbow. So basically, I think it's 7 colors. So I am using these colors here, and then I further am challenging myself by, so you have the colors of the rainbow, which is interesting because it does list indigo as one of the colors. But I don't have that one in here because when I was listening to the instructions the other day, I was a little confused about if that included blue and indigo as well, or exactly what colors. So what I did is I made it as simple as possible and went, okay, I'm going to go, and I went to my Crayola pencils. So these are just Crayola brand, kids, students, just general, you can buy these pencils. I have a full set of them, and I've swatched them and I used them a little bit, but I at the time was thinking, oh, I just don't know how great they're going to be for blendability and everything else. And needless to say, it's really showing me that no, you can blend with these. And what I'm going to work on today will show that blending even more, which is kind of interesting. And then you can have a white. So I have luminance here. So I'm hoping, I've got a couple questions in. One of them is, I'm hoping I can use a Posca pen, which I'm pretty sure you can. She kind of said you could do multimedia and everything else. So, but for right now, I mean, it's a pretty, I mean, yes, you're supposed to be able to make every color in the rainbow using the 3 primary colors. So when you go on, it's funny because these are the color of the rainbow, but I mean every color in the spectrum. But you have to have really good blending. You have to have really know what you're doing. And this is purely me experimenting. But she's coming out, this wonderful little witch, pretty interesting. I am now going to try to work on things like the background. And possibly her hat, and kind of get things set up for her hat and the clothing. So I've had a bit of a think, and I think what I'm going to work on first today is actually going to be this smoke coming out of her little brew that she has going there. And the reason I want to do that is I am attempting, since this is really taking the rainbow thing to heart, because of course she's got rainbow eyes, she's got different colored hair, her skin is green. I kind of want it to kind of go the smoke and change into all the colors that are in this, kind of like she's brewing her own rainbow, I guess is kind of the idea. So this is going to probably be one of the most challenging things for me. And so I think I'm going to work on that today. And that really would be something that I want to see, I would think you might be interested in, because it's going to show how blendable these pencils are. Now, the thing that I realized with these pencils is sorry for all that noise, it's my pencils. They're still, I'm going to go ahead and bring you in a little bit closer just so that you can, all right, that's as close as I can get. You can tell it's not perfectly blended. There's still some like little striations and stuff, but it's a pretty darn good blend at this point. And this is just layer upon layer that I've been using. So I'm happy I can't get over these. And we're going to go ahead and see, turn her a little bit, because we're going to work down here. And we're going to try to see if we can start getting that smoke to look a little bit like a rainbow coming out of the bottle. So all I'm doing is repeating a lot of these color combinations that I already have. And again, when you have a limited palette, and again, it's not that limited when you think about the colors and what I'm supposed to be able to do with it. All right, limited palette and a little bit of limited capabilities. I guess that's more like it. It's funny because I personally think it just makes you think about your picture a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here, and I'm going to start here and then kind of move up. And I'm going to go ahead and jump in right now with starting with my blue. Now there's not a lot of blue in this picture. There will be more, I think, as the background continues, but there's not tons. And this blue has been a challenge for me. Now, I always start really light anyway, which I think is an advantage when working with these pencils, because you are going to want to do a layering, and you definitely don't want to burnish this paper. So the paper that I'm using, again, is a cardstock. And actually, let me go get it and see if I can show you just what it is. It's from Walmart. Is doing as well as it is. So it is basically here, and I guess, there we go. It's Nina Bright White Premium Cardstock. I picked this up at Walmart. Like I said, it's 65 pounds. This feeds through my printer, which is good. If it gets too much heavier, it becomes more and more difficult. So I needed something that was consistent. But I wanted to be a little bit heavier than copier paper. And it has a slight little tooth. It comes in 80 sheets, which is great. And it works on LaserJet, inkjet, copier laser, all of those things. So that's good because I do have a laser printer is what I have. And it's considered 96 bright. So it's the Nina Bright White Premium Cardstock. And I just get it in the office supplies at Walmart. So we're going to continue on here. Just again, it's going to be really light coloring with the blue to begin with. So the challenge I'm having with this particular blue is like I kind of wanted to get a really, really light blue. I was thinking in the background, and I can't. You know, I've tried. If I add too much white, it actually dulls it down a little bit. So, I mean, it's, you know, I can get just the different shades of this particular blue. So it's kind of interesting because it's kind of a darker blue. However, one thing I've suddenly realized, so when I use my Prismas, if you look back at my pictures, it's funny looking on Instagram to kind of see my pictures. Obviously, even as a colorist, even though the artist or the illustrator is always different, or in general, most of the time it's different. The funny thing is that as I am working on it, the color, or I kind of choose the same hues and colors and intensities, and I kind of notice my pictures have this certain look. There's usually a lot of green and a lot of orange in it, and yellows, I've noticed. And so obviously as colorists, and I didn't realize we have our own style. You know, I always think, oh, it would just whatever the drawing is, that's really the style. And I guess, you know, you gravitate to certain colors. And one of the things that I don't or haven't been able to do, and I've been looking for years now how to do, is kind of what I call these lighter colors, but yet you can get intense through the layers. So intensity and darkness, or you know, is a little bit different. What I'm looking for is a really good coverage, but with really light colors. And lo and behold, where I've managed to have this happen, I think right now, is these colors are forcing me to, I can't get them extremely dark. I can't get them really, really dark, and I can't think of the other word. So it's almost like I have found a pastel pencil that even with multiple layers and everything else, it still looks pastel. And I haven't had that ability. I watch Reading with Pugs, and all of her coloring and stuff always has such a light touch. And then she got the Holbeins, and I was like, oh, the Holbeins, that's what her Holbeins, however you stand, her Holbeys, as a lot of people call them. And the pastels that were available were gorgeous. And I was like, you know what, at some point, maybe I'm going to have to, you know, just break down and get those, even if it's just the lighter colors, you know, in a little set, not the whole set of Holbeins. And I now realize these pencils actually are causing me to have what I would call more of a light color. You can get those lighter pinks, like that shade of pink, and oh, sorry, pointed in the wrong place. That little, you know, the pink and the light there, even the yellows. without having to go really, really dark. And with it, my prisms, I always feel like I'd have to put the low lights to be really dark. Um, and though these pencils, the Crayola, like the Holbein, haha, can you believe I'm doing Holbeins, talking about Holbeins and Crayolas at the same time? Crayola, but both of them, one of their downsides or whatever is you can't get individual colors. So that's a downside, maybe. I don't know. If I can get these pastel type colors with some of these basics, I can get a small set to replace. And the fact is Crayolas are so much more inexpensive. Um, I'd have a lot more choices to be able to just get more what I need to as far as maybe a whole set. So that's something. All right, so one of the things I'm trying to do is think about, the rainbow works the way it does because there is a mixture of colors. As you progress through a rainbow, and like even if you start with red, then it kind of goes to orange, and then it goes to yellow. And the reason for that is because, of course, the yellow and the red make orange. And as you keep moving up, it's the same thing. So I'm trying to keep in mind what colors kind of gradiate to one another. So with blue, I think of it as being on either turning into the purpley color, purple to pink color, or I'm thinking it can turn into like her skin more into the green. So I'm going to put a little hint of green in here as we move up. And that's where I'm going to do kind of my crossover. And then I can go into more of like a yellow color would be kind of the next progression. And then from yellow, you go from red to orange. And then the orange, you can have the red to purple again. So that's kind of the idea. So I'm going to start putting in very lightly the green color. And fade it into that just a little bit, into the blue that's already there. And this, I think, helps with the blending as well. Plus, it's going to mirror her. And I don't want to do tons of green because, I mean, her skin is a huge amount of green on this page as it is. But we can do a little bit. Now, I'm going around the little circles and bubbles and stars, and we'll come back and do the stars and bubbles separately. Now, again, the biggest thing that I have in this picture is I really, because of the pencils the way they are, it's very hard to get a really, really dark green. In fact, let me show you something. So to show you with each one of these pencils, so I would have to push, and this is me pushing really hard and burnishing the paper to get that dark of a green. Right now, I'm at about this much pressure. And you can see how different it is. And even by keeping going back over and over and over, to get to this dark, I would have to push really, really hard. And I am just not at that point. So this does create a dark green, but I would lose the texture. And I probably shouldn't have done that. Oh. To get that intense color. Actually, you know what? I'm going to move this because I don't want to push down on my page I'm coloring. All right. So even with layer upon layer, this is, at some point, I'd have to be here forever to get to this really dark. But that's about where I can get. If I want to get that dark, I'm going to have to push really hard. So let's just look at all the colors. So here is, now this one is just the straight blue. So I'm going to do it light. This is how I'm coloring right now. And building, and you can still build it. But if I wanted that really, really dark blue, I'm pushing really hard. Now, the thing about these pencils, they're pretty hard. Like, I don't feel like they're going to break. And that's, I mean, they're a strong pencil. And then here's the lighter, and then just showing you how dark I would get. Now, also, if I go this dark, this heavy, there is no blending. I'm not going to be able to bring in and really blend in. I'm using the green now. You're not really... There's going to be, there's not a subtle, see how you see that line? There's not going to be a subtle blend. The blending has to happen through layers upon layers. So over here, again, the orange, I could get this deep, which is a pretty good orange. But if I wanted to darken that or anything, I've burnished the paper. I've put so much pressure on. Then you have your lighter. So if I wanted to go more to a darker red, and I want to put the red on there, I can darken it up a little bit, but you can see it's not going to darken that much more. And that's, I mean, and now I'm pushing really, really hard. And that's, again, because I've burnished the paper, there's just no place for it to go. And it's smeary and waxy feeling, you know, so it's just, from that standpoint, these have a tendency to, in my mind, in my hands right now, to be almost like forcing pastel version of some of these colors. And that's good, because my Prismas, I go a lot darker most of the time. All right, so let's get back to what I was doing. Sorry about that. But sometimes, I mean, I think that's important to know about pencils. You know, this is turning into a Crayola review in a very positive way. Pleasantly surprised, not just a challenge. But it does take time to blend these colors together. And so what I'm thinking is, I mean, I'm not going to make you watch this whole thing, but or me color this entire thing. I want to show you how I'm blending the colors, and then I'll I'll finish on my own and not necessarily make you watch everything. We're just going to keep going with the smoke though for now. The only colors I have that I can use for really darkening down, in this case with the blues, is going to be the purple. Can darken it down a little bit more. And again, because I'm blending, I have to be really careful. I don't want to burnish where I can't add anything to it. But if I'm wanting to get a little bit darker blues, I can do that there with the purple. And I can bring the blues up into the greens and the greens down in the blues, because that's really how you blend it. And again, really soft. And I just do my little ovals. I just, you know, trying to make sure I don't get those, as least amount of those striations as possible. So the blending I'm doing right now is very similar to kind of what I was doing on her skin. So. This is interesting. So I'm using the luminance right now, and the Crayolas feel very similar in hardness. Yeah, okay, so now I'm going to say it, as the luminance. Though I can tell the Lumies are a little bit smoother going down. I can feel it. But they're blending really well with the Crayolas. Goodness. Is there anything the white luminance pencil can't do? So this is where I'm talking about transitions and logic. So again, if we think about it, the way we make green is by combining blue and yellow. So on this end of my smoke, here, I'm going to have my yellows. And my yellows will go down into that little bit of green, just to make that transition. And if you think about it, it's like yellows moving in here and blues moving in there, and they make green. That's kind of the idea in the smoke that I'm doing, is how you make these transitions. And I think that is a way to make these transitions appear smoother and less jarring. But you have to start bringing that yellow in a little bit, and then we're going to bring it up here. Now the yellow is interesting because I mean, it's hard to see, and even though yellow is the color I'm going for, I'm going to do a little highlighting just like I did here. So that's like yellow hair. I mean, if you look at this, that's pink, well, pink or purple, to, you know, lilac to yellow to orange. That's how you're kind of reading it, even though there's oranges and reds in here, because that's the high and white, and that's the high and low lights that we've put in there. So, you know, again, it's not, I'm not just going to leave it just yellow, because I can't leave anything just alone. I am really liking, I always am looking for a really good yellow, and now I'm finding it here in the Crayola. Maybe it's because that's from my childhood, and that's the yellow I'm comparing it to is Crayola's yellow. Whenever I'm looking for that perfect yellow in my 150 set of Prismas or whatever. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. To give a little definition, give it a little bit of movement, give it a little texture dimension. Just like I didn't leave this just straight blue, I've used purple, I've darkened the blue. I'm going to use my orange just a little on the edges to start giving an edge, giving it kind of a roundness. The smoke is billowy. But I really don't want it to turn to orange. That's not, I just need those little bit of definition. And I'm going to come in very lightly with the red. Again, kind of giving it that little darker edge. It also mixes with the, oop, that was a little heavy. So I'm going to bring my yellow down even into here a little bit, into this highlight. I just like the color green it makes. Just like on her skin, we have quite a few little spots that we did yellow. Okay. So as you see that movement from the blue to the green, that we're now at yellow. So if we think on the other side, what colors do we get if we mixed other colors with yellow? So again, looking at our primary colors, if I mixed it with blue, we're going to get green. Well, I don't want green again, do I? I want the next color. So the only other thing, I can't mix it with blue, I can mix it with the red. So this is going to allow for this then to move in to more of quote unquote the red, which in our case is more of a pink. But that means in between that, we're kind of alluding that we're going through yellow to orange. This hat, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do in orange, and so the problem is they're right next to one another. So what I'm thinking I want to do is extend the yellow up a little further, get it away from the hat, and then do a little bit of an orange, and probably then quickly go into my next color. So maybe this will make a little sense. So we're going to extend the yellow as if the yellow really was a bigger portion of the smoke, because yellow next to orange, I should be able to see a difference, even though I use orange to do low lights in the yellow. But I can get, hopefully, the orange a little bit away. So the band is going to be purple, so this would be a good transition into orange here, and then into the orange to the red again. So I think we're going to extend this up to about here. And again, I do this really lightly because the colors right next to it is going to be a purple, so I can start getting this into the orange color here. And that's what I mean about a little bit of planning when you have more of a limited color, because I need to be thinking this is going to be a huge orange splotch. This whole hat is going to be, orange, and I need to make sure that, it's going to lean more to the orange than the yellow side. And so because of that, I need to be really, really cautious that everything that touches it around it doesn't have that same feeling. It's not feeling orange. Otherwise, it's just going to be like a big orange blob. Just like if I had done so much green, now that we have so much with her skin. Now the two colors that are mixing, again, top to bottom, is going to be that red, or it's a pinky red, which I'm glad it is more of a cooler red because I can warm it up with my oranges. So we're going to start that. Now the good news is that we can carry that up for quite a while because this pink is going to be a good color for that. We've got to be careful. I'm making a little bit of lines. I can get my circle, my ovals a little bit more. Let's get back to the blending down here. Going back into the orange with my red. And we're just going to keep building. And then down into here. I do like having that little bit of an edge kind of darkening because it just makes the smoke seem like it's a little rounder. The Jade Summer books, all of the line art can be quite heavy, so I mean, and they're coloring books, so we kind of would expect that. But to really, that's why when you see a Jade Summer that people have used the Posca pen to kind of hide the lines, it really makes it pop. And again, if I find out that a Posca pen should work because it's a white color, it's not adding any new color. I might go in and do that on some of these, but that's even more the reason to have this kind of edging. So it just starts giving it some dimension. All right. As I did down below, I'm going to come in with a little bit of orange on those edges just to darken them down a little bit, as if we're not going to see, there's going to be a shadow. I'll bring that up into there a little bit. And that's how you make blends. You really have to give yourself rooms. So by room, I mean don't color too darkly to begin with, that you can start mixing them equally until it does look like a blend. And this orange is kind of an important transition. And as you can tell, I really take that yellow quite a ways up. And it's just I want an undercurrent that it really is mixing in there. Just like I'll bring that pink down further. And I'll kind of use that orange to blend them all. Now I'm getting to the point where I'm really pushing down, especially here on the edges, to really try to establish that that's a darker, and to get those dark colors like I was showing you just a little while ago, you really do end up having to push down. And because I don't have even a brown or a dark orange that's got a lot of brown in it to really show that darker portion. Unfortunately, that does mean I have to really try to press down and get as dark of an orange color. But again, it's kind of making it so this has a pastel feel to it a little bit, but intense, and I love it because of that. I don't know how well these will play with other pencils, but I'm really liking it, and I'm loving it on this paper. It is really nice on this paper. All right. So now we're on to the next transition phase. Again, think of the color. Red is the main primary color that I've got here. So what do I mix with red? Either yellow making orange. Well, we just did that. So that just logically says the next color I'm going to mix it with is going to be blue out of the primary colors. That's what it can gradiate to. And that means purple, because those two colors, when they mix, when that smoke comes together, that's what it's going to make. So we're going to continue on with the red up here just a little further. I've moved where this purple is going to happen, which is going to be about here, is now no longer near the purple here, or the future purple there. You're like, shit, wait, I don't see purple. Okay, so I haven't colored it yet. All right, and then I'm going to come up and I'm going to take the purple that I do get to use and do what I was saying before, is kind of bring it back down just a little bit, kind of. But if you think of these as base layers, it's, you know, you start putting in your next color, or in this case, the ideal of the combo color. I don't do it in a straight line, number one, and I kind of start blurring right from the beginning, so that right here, what's happened is you have purple 100%, you have red 100%. Now it's almost like I'm trying to do it 50-50. Just kind of blurred in there a little bit. Now, one of the things that I also know is that I'm going to try to do a lot of blue in the background. So when I transition into my blue here, I don't want a lot of it. We're going to have to do a pretty quick transition into green. And I'm okay, because if we look, let's see, I need to bring you back out. Hold on one second. I'm okay about having green appear pretty predominant over here in this corner, because it's far enough away from where she's at, and it carries the green all the way to the end of the page. So right now what I'm going to do is do just there's not going to be tons of blue, because I'm going to try to do a lot of blue sky. And I don't want it to get lost in the sky. And because I don't have a lot of different shades of blue I can do, I kind of am stuck with the two, or maybe, well, basically two shades of blue that I can make with these limited pencils. And that's not saying you can't make tons of shades. I mean, I know there are really, really talented individuals out there that understand and work with color theory, or are just talented, I should say. I mean, there is, and people who are professional artists, I know that they could take the three primary colors and make all these colors that I am using. I'm not that person, and not with Crayola colors definitely right now, because believe it or not, since probably leaving 7th grade, back when we had map colors, and my map colors were always Crayola, that was one thing I don't know, I kind of was a bit, I would stand up against my mom a little bit or be a little bit bratty about that. I remember consciously that I was thinking I was probably being bratty. Okay, talk to my mom, and I'm probably bratty a lot more unconsciously. But when I was younger, because I really, I would work to, I would haggle with her to get the bigger color box. So if school said you needed 24, the 24 Crayola box, I would be like, no, I need 36, or I'd always start higher, at least 48. Of course, my dream was to get the big 95 or whatever. But you know what? I found for me, I love the 48. That was enough. There was enough unique colors in it, enough things I could mix, even at that younger age. But that I would kind of like think was important. I would really push it. I'd be willing to almost get in trouble to get more than the 24 that they said. So if they said you needed colored pencils, you needed the box of 12, and you go to, you know, the store and they had off brands. So, like Staples has their own brand, and, there's the Rose something or another. I don't know what brand that is, but I mean, like, that wasn't a brand, I don't think, when I was around. But you could get off brands that weren't Crayola. First of all, no, they have to be Crayola, Mom. Well, it doesn't say it has to be. Yes, it has to be Crayola. And they say you need 12. Mom, it's gonna be for coloring maps and stuff. And I would always push for like the 24 cent. So there's some history there with me and my colors. But what's funny, and I'm loving it, maybe my hands are going, oh, I remember these, and that's why I'm kind of getting how to use them. And I'm really happy with how they're being used, how they're coming out. I'm very excited. But it's funny because I'm wondering if my hands and body's like, oh no, you know how to make these, because I would have been there coloring that map. That would have been the only homework I would have had. Everything else I would have, done. I'd be like, no, I'm going to do my map at home so that I could just take my time and do it. I was watching another YouTuber, and unfortunately, I want to say it's like KV is her name. I'm going to put the name up here across so that you know, because I know who I'm talking about, and you need to know who I'm talking about. I was watching her color, and she was using Neo colors, the Neo Color 2s, and she was just scribbling away because she was doing a background. And it was so funny because it's like, I told her this, we kind of were talking with her, and I said, I'm going to have to really get into my inner, and I went to say 5-year-old to be able to scribble, and then suddenly I went, nope. I was big about, coloring in the lines, not scribbling, even in kindergarten, I guess my inner 3 or 4-year-old, and I don't even know if I colored that young, but I thought that was one of those things. Is like, yeah, if I'm really honest, I'm really, really honest, but that's why I can't believe this has come back. And I've tried to explain to my husband. He's not judgy. Oh gosh, no. And he's very supportive, and he allows me to have a lot. But I think even he's been surprised to see me. This is 2 years going into this, and it doesn't look like it's waning. My love for coloring. I'm not jumping off to something else. And I just try to tell him that, it was just something that I did when I was younger, and it was very soothing. So when I was younger, we were building our house, and by we, it was my mom, 2 teenage boys, and about a 70-year-old master carpenter. And my dad was off working at the time and going through some training and stuff for work. And I was like, it was right, I started kindergarten that year that we poured the foundations, which would have been like in November, close to November or something. But we were living at that time, all of us, well, not the master carpenter, were living in a camper. And it was like a 20-foot, I think they'd be Class C. A Class C is what it is. So, we were living in this camper on our property while we were building very slowly this house. And we lived, I think, 18 months or longer in that because we moved into the house before it was really even finished. There were still things going on when we moved in, but anyway, so it's a very small camper, and it was the old traditional kind. You know, it had the dinette, and the my dad rigged up almost like a hammock. That's what I slept in. It was very, it was like a sea canvas. Like, it was borderline like I was on a ship. It was above the dinette, and my brothers had to sleep and the dinette, and my parents were up on the bunk above the cab over bunk. And but there was 5 of us, and it was 2 teenage boys that were growing, and nobody in my family is tiny and petite. We're all pretty, at that, well, I'm not tall by comparison anymore, but back then I was fairly, tall girl. And then my brothers were tall. My dad was over 6 feet, and the boys were well approaching it. My mom was pretty tall, but again, you have all of us. And there was no place to play, and it was starting to be kind of winter in November, and I didn't go to kindergarten until afternoon. I was in the afternoon class. So when you get up in the morning, it was all about just finding some place that I could be and not be in the way, because Mom was cleaning up dishes. She was getting ready herself. We had 1 bathroom. The boys were getting ready to go to school. You can just really imagine this mess that it was. So I had to find some place, and so that was normally sitting at the dinette in a far corner. And what did you do? We didn't have a television. We had no television. So I'm not going to just sit there. And plus, my mom would have never let me just sit there and watch television, because it would have driven her nuts, like watching the cartoons or whatever. And we would have only had 1 channel anyway, so there might not have been anything I wanted to watch. So what I did is I colored, and I would color every day, just to keep myself busy and out of the way. And I didn't get in trouble, so it was, it was a really positive thing. I wasn't getting yelled at for any reason. I could just, and could just color. Mom and I chatted. It wasn't like I was, she wasn't talking to me, but while she was getting ready and cleaned up and getting prepped for the day and all that, I was out of her way. And I think it's because it's always been kind of like, it's always been okay in my life to color. Like, my mother would want me to color because, again, it gave me something to do. So I think that's part of it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's part of where the calmness and the coloring and the experience. If I had an experience of that I was being compared to other people, or I was being judged, I don't know that I would have the same feeling. So my mom even told my kindergarten teacher, she told the kindergarten teacher, said she may not, she's coming in, she's already colored in essence for 4 hours before she came here. So if you guys color, she may not want to, or whatever. And my next door neighbor was my kindergarten teacher, which is really cool. And she reported back to Mom going, no, she probably could continue coloring for another 6 hours. Because it was the one thing that Miss Beck would, when we go to transition, I was always, wait, got to finish this one little thing. It's kind of like right now, I'm thinking, wait. All right, so now I've got it blended pretty well, I think. I want to try something. Hold on a second. Messing with the color and stuff, because I kept looking at it, looked so kind of bluish, and it wasn't really picking up the color, so I went ahead and changed it up a little bit. So now we're going to move more into that blue. I've already blended the red into the purple. Oh, well, it would help if I had the blue. See, that was the benefit of going light. I would have just colored it more purple. So remember, I want to kind of do the blue kind of quick. I want to transition into the green fairly quickly. Now again, here we go, because it's like, well, I've already done purple. The only other color blue can really change with, when we're talking about primary to primary, is with yellow, and that color is green. So that's why I move into green from this point. And I'm going to finish it out with green, because between the yellows, and the orangey kind of color here for the hat, we're going to have, and then my stars will be kind of a yellow, most likely. I just need to finish this out. So here we go with kind of how that smoke is, and you see the blending. Now I will fiddle and fiddle with this. I will go in and really try to darken up like these edges in here, more like what I did here. Probably mess with this blending a little bit more, but that's kind of the idea of them blending, and that is a really a testament, I think, to these colors and these pencils, these colored pencils by Crayola, that they really do work really well and can be very easily blended. She's really cute. I'm really having fun doing her. And these Crayolas are really doing well.